This is Bill Anderson. Sorry about the slow start there. This is what happens when you're doing things live. I'm absolutely delighted to have my guest today, and Simona Mango. Welcome, Simona, to Expat Radio.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much.
Listen, Simona, I'm not quite sure where to start with you because you are a woman of many parts, shall we say. Um, we'll start out that you were, I don't know if you still do it, a professional mezzo-soprano soloist. Do you still do that?
On and off, it's been my profession for about a quarter century,
Right.
and now it's more relegated to being my hobby. But I'm keeping my voice up, and I still teach singers. So being a singer is definitely still part of me,
It's still part of
even
you,
though it's
yeah.
not my main focus at all.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
because we're going to talk about some, I think, some quite interesting things. You are a holistic life and health coach, and we're
Yes.
going to talk quite a bit about that. And you also have trained in nutrition, and I think that's a major. It's just such a major topic for everyone. I think, regardless of where they live in the world, because our eating habits, our nutrition, and everything has changed so much over the last 10 or 15 years that I think we do need to talk quite a bit about that, don't we?
This is a huge topic. It used to be the West, and now it's really worldwide. This
Yeah.
is a topic of the utmost importance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Before we really get into the nitty gritty, Simona, tell us a little bit about your origins, because you've got a very sort of mixed origin, haven't you?
Yes, I'm one of those crazy Euro mixes,
Yeah.
half Swiss, half Italian. I was born into a bilingual family.
Right.
So yeah, and then they sent me to school where this would be like the norm, and we started learning the third language, which was French at 7, and then I
Right.
started, like that. And so it's really interesting when you have all these languages, and it opens all these cultures to you, and then you travel a bit, and then yeah, so it's
Absolutely.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your original bilingual, was that German Italian?
Yes.
Yeah. What was it, Swiss German or real German?
Oh, it was Swiss German, of course, and then I had to add some decent real German, as you say, on top of that, because
Yeah.
you don't go very far with that.
Yeah, if people don't know, I'm trying to make a comparison here. It's a little bit like High German and Swiss Germans, a little bit like I don't know, the Queen's English and Cockney rhyming slang.
That's about the distance,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And there's words that would not be recognizable. Not only just the pronunciation and the
yeah.
way it sounds, but just the very word, just
That's
the
right.
root it's taken from. It's just like,
Yeah, yeah,
what is that?
yeah. Well, I guess then for you, English is your fourth language.
Is yes, it's my fourth language. That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I have to say it's very impressive.
Thank you.
Okay, you've got this real sort of mixture of roots, Simona, in Switzerland, in Italy. I guess you travelled a lot in your singing career.
As well, which is
Yeah,
a fabulous extra bonus when you become a singer.
yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're living down here in, I was going to say on the Costa del Sol, but you're a little bit inland, certainly in the heart of Andalusia. How did that final decision come about?
So I was living in the center of Malaga with my husband. He's a professional musician too. I was doing that full time at the time. We were commuting internationally, so we chose Malaga because of its international airport. We
Right.
were we were traveling quite a lot. And so we were hiring these rehearsal rooms that were real death traps underground, surrounded by smelly rock bands.
Yes.
And
You,
it
you
wasn't
you
very easy.
you make it sound so attractive.
It was fun, but it was sometimes a bit tiresome, all of that.
Yeah.
And then one day my husband says, hey, how about, I got an idea, we moved to the countryside. And I was like, what? No, I don't want to move to the countryside. And he says, but yeah, imagine the space and the freedom, and we could make music and all of that. And I thought, oh, woof. And then we inherited my father's Land Rover when he died.
Right.
And we took it to Spain and we started driving around.
Right.
We started looking at houses, at places. And I thought, like, wow, this could be something.
Yeah.
And then when we found our little finca, that's when really, when we said, yeah, that's it. And not looking back.
Yeah, and I haven't visited your finca, but from when we spoke previously, it sounds like it's somewhere, it's kind of in the middle of somewhere in nowhere, but it's kind of next to nowhere.
Yeah, it's midway between the two Alaurins.
Yeah.
So it's a gorgeous region. It's really beautiful countryside, lots of orange trees and all of that.
Yes.
And we live out here with a big family of cats and dogs.
Right. Did you get some rain last night? We had a storm sort of passing over us last night, but it didn't do very much.
I think it was 11 drops.
Did you? Well, we got 12.
Oh,
it was these big ones, which were just big enough to make the car that I just washed the previous day dirty again, you know. So you've kind of from being a singer, soloist, you really quite reinvented yourself, Simona, haven't you?
On paper, yes, but
Okay.
in the essence, not a lot has changed. I'll tell you why. Because alongside my singing, my performing, I've always been teaching singers as well.
Right. Okay.
And teaching singers means teaching them a lot of things. It's not only the singing skills. How do you breathe? How do you hold, your mouth, your posture, your things,
Right.
musical skills, all of that. But it goes a lot deeper than that, because you are really touching people's emotions.
Sure.
It's this way of breathing that unleashes things in your body, because when you breathe so deep, you kind of reconnect with your body. And sometimes there's just uncontrolled emotions coming out.
Right.
And then the music is so emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And say when they start hearing their voice like that in this amazing way for the first time, and when they start putting the lyrics to it and all of that, these are storms of emotions.
Right.
And then come all the emotions attached to fear of being judged and all of that, stage fright, who am I to sing in public and all of that. And it's
Right.
a huge amount of work that you do on your mindset and on everything apart from the singing. So actually I've been life coaching forever and ever. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just taking the singing out of it for those who are not singers, and I'm concentrating a lot more, on all the rest. But it's nothing new for me, even though the
Right.
job description sounds completely different.
So, but you obviously at some point took a conscious decision
Yes.
to formalize all of this, if you like, natural stuff you were doing with people that you were teaching to sing, and formalize that by becoming a life coach. Yeah.
Yes, I trained, I did my certifications, not only because it's kind of good to, just to have a little bit more, to look a bit more serious and all of that. But I
Sure.
learned a lot. I learned a huge amount of things, of tools, of techniques, of ways of approaching that. And then another thing I was always passionate about and rather knowledgeable about was nutrition. And there as well, I wanted to really formalize it. I wanted to fill in the gaps, learn what I needed to learn, so I really know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So it took me a few years to get all these skills together and to start putting them into practice. And so I feel really, confident. Obviously, you never stop learning. You learn
Sure.
every day. You learn because you study, you learn because you work.
Yeah.
but it's an ongoing process. But yes,
Yeah, and I guess every person you work with teaches you something new as well.
every person, every single time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I worked for a lot of years in psychological services in the UK. And, you know, when you've been doing it for 10 or 12 or 15 years, you're in danger of thinking, oh, yeah, well, I've got this cracked. And then someone comes along and you think, no, I haven't got this cracked.
No, you
I've
haven't.
got I've got something to learn here. I've got something to
That's right.
process, and something that I need to bear in mind with the next person that I see.
That's right.
Yeah. So, in terms of your work as a holistic life and health coach now, is most of that done online, Simona, or
It
how
is
does
for
that
me.
work? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's mostly online. I think I work most of all in English, so everywhere. I have a few local people, so it does happen as well.
Mm,
But for me, it's mostly online.
right. Now, what are the kind of things that people are looking for when they come to see a life coach or a health coach?
Um, uh, it's all facets of well-being.
Right.
They don't feel as good as they would like. It's either on a physical or an emotional level, and often the two combined, because
Right.
obviously the two will influence each other. So it can be one thing I specialize in is helping women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I mean, no limit,
Right.
80s. I have a project. I think we should live up to 120. So I don't put a limit there, but women these kind of ages seem to resonate with my message a lot.
Mm,
So it's I help them with their health and with all this, all this emotional turmoil again there as well in these years of change and all of that.
right.
And it can really, for some people, it's very physical, and for other people, it's like the way they feel, the way they feel about life, the way their
Mm,
energy, their purpose, their finding purpose in what they do. Am I doing what I'm meant to do? What's
right.
my purpose now?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
And
many facets.
you know, I guess you don't put age limits on the people that you work with, but you're saying, you know, a lot of women, 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe beyond that. Do you think that some of the I'm going to call them issues, whatever they are, whether they're health or emotional, are rooted to some extent in the kind of world that they grew up in, and the kind of expectations on them, and you know, maybe with the world changing, the feeling that they don't fit in anymore.
Um, it's there's a few aspects to that. So definitely the way we are all brought up influences our expectations a
Yeah.
lot. Expectations as to what the world should provide for us, and also expectations as to what we are meant to deliver. And this
Right.
can be very, very stressful.
Mm,
Uh, I hear from many women, yeah, I would say around their 60s and above.
right.
I hear that they are really happy they're not young girls now. I
Right.
hear that. I've heard this repeated many ways. Like, I would not want to be a teenager now, or a young girl,
Mm,
or a young mother. Like getting married and thinking about having kids now,
mm,
because the world has changed so much and it's difficult to cope with.
right.
This is one aspect. But then
Mm,
there's a lot of people who kind of enjoy the challenge, and they think, like, the world is changing, what do I need to do? And these are often also people with a very positive attitude.
right.
And yeah, this is
So
great.
yeah, so but it is good though, I think, that regardless of what age people are, they don't do what I have done at points in my past life, saying, that's me sorted, I know it all. They're still looking to grow, to evolve, and to adapt to really, I would say, more than ever, a rapidly changing world.
Yes, and I have nothing but respect for those people who uh, want to want to basically they want to make the most of this life, and
Sure.
they say, do you know what? I think there's tools that I don't have yet, which means that I'm missing out.
Right.
So
Yeah.
why am I missing out? There's more in it for me than I'm seeing right now, and this is almost in every case the truth.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're saying, and we will kind of talk about this in more detail after the break, about the half hour, but you're saying, how much health, I guess, is affected by a person's emotional state, and how their emotional state is or can be affected by their health.
Hugely, it works both ways.
Hmm.
So which is tricky when we have a problem,
Mm.
because obviously it gets magnified on every level. But on the other hand, it means that when we start addressing the problem and healing things and working on things, the other side will get affected too. So both of them will improve. They're
Right.
they're never separated.
Hmm.
They're never separated. When you dig, this is a very important discovery I made. You think, well, someone might have a health issue, but then they're otherwise great, or they might have feel bad in their emotions, in their minds, in their behaviors, in their relationships, and everything that's their life, but they have splendid health. No, it might look like it, but if you
Right.
dig deep, if you look, you will see that this is at some level reflected in the body.
Okay.
And this is amazing, and this is so important to know, because you can tackle it from either side. One will be your priority, one will be the reason why you look for help, but
Right.
you will be amazed, if you're not aware of it, of how much everything else, the other side of it, will be affected by good change.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And is that really how you would define this holistic part that you have as part of your, I'm going to call it your job title, but but
Yes.
yeah, I mean, you're not just telling people how to be better business people, or telling people how to, I don't know, deal with a difficult partner. You really are looking at their life as a whole, and
Yes, absolutely. And this is one reason why I think it's important to approach this health in this way.
right.
I am in awe of modern medicine when it treats mechanical things.
Right.
Modern medicine, the way it's able to fix things that you broke after accidents, after whatever happened to you, the way it's able to restore nerves, rebuild missing parts,
Yes.
things like that, is astounding. Also, what it's able to do, for example, with some basic things that freed us from bacteria. Just think of penicillin, or these really there's some
Totally.
life-changing, amazing basic things uh, that when it comes to keeping us alive, modern
Sure.
medicine is incredible. What my problem with it is the way it deals with a human being in a case of illness.
Right.
And that's where I advocate a holistic approach, because what modern medicine does is it tends to wipe out the symptoms. So don't do that. A symptom is a message.
Right.
Don't wipe out the message before you've read it.
Yes.
So yeah, so
Yes.
a symptom is telling you a lot more. Let's go and see what that is. Let's not wipe out the symptom.
Right.
Because if the cause is not addressed, some other symptom will come up somewhere else trying to get across the same message, and they keep wiping them out.
And a lot of, and I'm in total agreement with you that the advances in medicine, especially for broken things or for fixing things, has been absolutely astounding in the last 50, 60, 70 years. But I also identify this frustration with, I don't know, I've got a headache. Well, take this pill and get rid of your headache. And all you're doing is really giving symptomatic treatment, so something to get rid of the symptom. And, we don't always ask the question, why do you have a headache?
That's exactly it. Why do you have a headache?
Yeah. And there are parts of our bodies in particular that react to our emotional state, aren't there? Well, our head is one of them. Our neck,
Yes.
all of this area here, and then when you get down into the midriff area, our stomachs and the way that functions, and our intestines and the way that functions. There's so much connection there between our emotional state and our health. So dealing with the symptoms, I've got a load of, I don't know, I've got reflux acid. Oh, well, take this and it'll get rid of it. Well, yeah. But why have I got a load of reflux acid?
Exactly. That's the thing. That's telling you something. You wipe it under the carpet and you're not hearing that thing anymore.
Sure.
What help is that?
Yeah.
So that's why I like an approach that says, okay, let's go and see why you have that. And I bet you anything you will find at least half of the reasons in the emotions.
Right. Yes.
You might find another half in the body, but let's go and look for it. Let's not just wipe it away. And let's find what's the big mental, emotional side of that.
Right.
You don't just get reflux acid. You're happy and living a wonderful life and you get reflux. You don't.
No.
You don't. There is something.
And it could be emotional, and that's a classical sort of symptom that people get when their emotions are in a mess.
Yes.
Or it could be something like diet, for example. And looking at nutrition might be the thing that's going to help to fix that. But taking antacids is certainly not going to fix it. It's just going to take the symptom away.
Absolutely. The problem is that nowadays we are all inflamed, chronically inflamed.
Yes.
So there are some big things that you will notice, like obvious big inflammation. But the problem is that even people who feel more or less okay and live a normal life and everything are often they suffer from silent inflammation.
Right.
Which means that every single cell is inflamed, and so it finds it hard getting the nutrients in and letting the waste products out.
Right.
So all our cells are basically starved and poisoned. Now imagine that we have trillions of cells, and imagine trillions of cells that are starved and poisoned.
Right.
How is our health gonna look like?
Yeah. I mean, but when you put it that way, it makes it sound...
This is what happens. This is what I work with.
Right.
I help people get that. Really, also that's one of the things that I do. I help people get this inflammation out of their body.
Right.
Because an inflamed body is obviously good territory for all sorts of ailments.
Sure.
That they might not have expressed. So if you take this away, they are a lot less likely to ever show up.
Yes. Listen, Simona, I think that's a very good link to what we're going to talk about after the break. We're going to listen to Erasure just for a moment, and when we come back, we're going to get down into this nutrition part and inflammation, because I think it's really important.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay.
Broadcast You're listening to EXPAT Radio, beaming out across France and around the world.
Welcome back. I'm Bill Anderson, coming live from the Costa del Sol with my guest today, Simona Mango, who is a holistic life and health coach, amongst many other things. Welcome back, Simona.
Thank you, Bill.
Right. Listen, you made a sort of statement just when we were going out for the break there, that people suffer from silent inflammation. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so, when you have high levels of inflammation in the body, it can manifest in many ways. You can see it, like when you have, for example, ongoing fatigue and low energy. That's a sign, for example, can be a sign of inflammation.
Right.
When you have joint pain, muscle pain, that kind of stuff. Chronic pain also around the body. There's often these unexplicable pains that, they're often down to inflammation,
Right.
swelling. When you suffer from infections, often, some people do, digestive issues, skin problems, all sorts of things.
Mm.
And sometimes you might be before the stage where this shows up, actually.
Right. Okay.
You might be preparing for that and be totally unaware of it.
Mm.
And silent inflammation can be in your body for a long time, for years, before anything shows up.
Okay.
And then it's not silent anymore.
Right.
That's the thing. Then it's not silent anymore. So silent is any level of inflammation that's not expressing itself yet.
Okay. Right.
And this is also a great territory for cancer, for dementia, for this kind of stuff.
Right.
So that's why it's important.
And do we have a single cause for this? Is this a lifestyle thing?
It is a lifestyle thing. It is 100% a lifestyle thing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And does that mean, a lot of dealing with this comes down to our nutrition, or
Yes.
Nutrition and exercise, or how does that work, Simona?
It comes down to our diet, to what we eat. So the problem is, that's why I was saying it's the West, but now the East is catching up as well, which is very sad. They used to have a very healthy diet. They used to be in a very good place like that. But in the West, we tend to eat a lot of things that are not food in the first place. We should not be eating them.
Right.
We call them food, but there is nothing of any value for the body in there.
Mm.
Maybe we like the taste, it's fun, they have great ads on TV, and it's like a social thing and all of it, and we get used to it. We like a taste, but this does not mean that we should eat it. Absolutely
Right.
not.
Yeah. And a lot of things that we do call food are artificially enhanced to make us want to eat them and like them and go back to them, aren't they?
Yes, and they are addictive.
Yes.
There are things like sugar, for example, is addictive. It's highly addictive. So what they do in products, they put in a lot of sugar.
Yes.
For example, this is one of the things they put in there. Even in savory products that have no reason at all for sugar, they will be loaded with sugar because it makes them addictive.
Yeah.
So you go back to them. Absolutely.
Listen, this is a sort of story from my past life, but I worked largely in the field of drug addiction and alcohol problems. And I had a colleague in those days who used to, when he started to talk, people would say, "Oh, here he goes again," because there was a lot of talk in those days about gateway drugs, and how we should be tackling the cannabis thing because cannabis is the gateway drug, and Willie used to always say, "No, the gateway drug is sugar," and
Absolutely.
and people would go, "Oh, here he goes again," but actually, as the years have gone on, I think back to those times, and we're talking about over 30 years ago. I think back to those times and say, you know what? He had it spot on.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Sugar is a very, very potent drug.
Yes.
and we're not aware of it. We give it to kids. We think, yeah, have a cookie, have a, I don't know,
Sugar,
cake and
sugar
this and
water.
that. This is and the fizzy drinks and all of that stuff. This
Yeah.
is yeah, this is all stuff that inflames the body to a high
Sure.
degree.
Sure.
It's all stuff that causes a lot of damage.
Right. So this, obviously, if we're adding sugars to our foods, we know it's there. But, I guess that what you're talking about here is buying foods that has all of this added sugar and not even being aware, or not taking the time to even look at it and say, wow, it's got, 25 grams of sugar or 30 grams of sugar in it.
Yeah. So ideally, what I tell people is buy produce, don't buy products.
Right. Yes.
So buy the stuff the way it's found on the planet and then cook it. Or eat it raw, even better, or do with it what you want, but you treat it.
Right.
When you buy a product that's obviously processed, that's stuff has been done to it industrially, chances get very high that there's unwanted stuff in there. Now, for example, if you press olives and get oil out of that is processed. That the oil does not flow in oil falls like we have waterfalls. Okay, this is processed, but this is perfectly okay. This is mechanical. It's squeezed and the oil comes out. Great. When we talk about really highly processed stuff that has then stuff added and all of this is where they put in things that should not enter your system.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess when you apply that to other, let's just say things that they sell as oil. I guess if you take a sunflower and just press it, you're not going to get a lot of oil out of it. So there has to be a real processing going on there to turn it from a seed into an oil, no?
For it to be cheap, yes. You can press sunflower oil and have a perfectly extra virgin, as it were,
Right.
cold pressed, just mechanically squeezed pressed sunflower oil, which is perfectly okay, same as with olives and all of that. But then it's rather expensive because of what it will yield.
Okay.
So if you want to have it as cheap as we have these things, you have to start employing heat or solvents to really get all the oil out of the various seeds and nuts and grains and whatever. And this is where it becomes dangerous.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got. I think that's a very good slogan to buy produce and not products.
Yes.
And I think anybody listening is going to I think understand what we're saying here. Even if I don't know if we want to have a hamburger, we make it at home. Because when we look in the supermarket shelf at the ingredients on one that's sitting there,
yes,
there's already 3 things that I have no idea what they are.
Exactly. This can hardly be food if you don't recognize it.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's flavor enhancers and antioxidants to stop it going brown, presumably, while it's on the shelf.
There's colorings, flavorings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sweeteners, enhancers, all of that.
Yeah.
All of that stuff should just never, ever, ever enter your system.
Yeah.
Because also, things like artificial sweeteners and the enhancers, which are, for example, glutamate, that stuff, these are substances that we have naturally in our nervous system,
right,
in exact, perfectly balanced amounts, because they are neurotransmitters. They work with our nerves.
Right.
And you don't touch that. Some of them are found naturally in some foods, and this is okay. But when you get your system flooded with the amounts of stuff that are created artificially and added to food, your nervous system just can't handle it.
Right.
It just cannot handle it. I call these, they tell me, you're exaggerating. I'm not. These are crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
There's no other word for that.
Right. So I think people can identify with the sugars thing quite easily, Simona, really. What are the other big sort of errors that we're making generally in our diet other than sugars?
So there's one thing, there's errors that we make, and I'm happy to list them all. And then there's also, it's not all our fault, because even in the good food and the good produce, there are not all the nutrients in there anymore,
Right.
as used to be the case up until about 80 years ago.
Right.
About 80 years ago, food was still food, like with everything in it. And then with what's happening in the environment, with the way we're poisoning everything, the nutrients have been taken out, have been lost basically in the food.
Right.
So even now, even if you eat really, really well and organic and this and that, you are still, and this is really sad, but it's the truth. I had to find out. I was in shock. I found out for myself. These are the ingredients that are not there anymore, and you still don't get what you need.
Right. So
You still don't.
For stuff that comes from the ground, I think what you're saying here is that there has been, over the last decades, a depletion in the essential nutrients in
Dramatic.
the soil. So even though we're eating our kale or we're eating our whatever, it's not necessarily containing what it would naturally contain if there wasn't this soil depletion.
Yes, and you can farm organic, but then you're under the sky, you're in this air, you are,
Right.
it is what it is. This is one thing. So the mistakes we make usually is that we eat huge amounts of carbs, far too much, far too many of them. So, which means that we are never leaving our insulin in peace.
Right.
We are constantly asking the insulin to clean out sugar from our blood.
Sure.
So it's overworked, it's constantly around. And this is the problem, that then we have so many cases of diabetes and all of that, the insulin resistance, because we just flood our system with all that sugar. Now, white sugar is bad enough, but then we have so many grains, so many, things that and this is our normal. I mean, we have like bread every day. We have that kind of stuff. This is normal. We think that this is normal, but it's not.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah. Well, I made a decision about 8 or 9 months ago to cut. I don't cut all carbs out of my diet, but to make a conscious reduction, like heavy reduction in my carbs. And I don't eat bread. I eat protein bread from time to time, but sometimes it didn't taste very good, so I don't bother. It's like, just eating it for the sake of saying I've got my protein bread, which is high in fiber and low in carbs, but sometimes it tastes a bit like cardboard.
It's much better if you don't eat it, and then from time to time you just have a fabulous bread and really enjoy it. But it's not a day-to-day load on your system.
Absolutely. And I've also, Vicky still eats pasta and things, but I've cut pasta out of my diet because it's just all carbs. And obviously cut sugars and things out as well. And I did it to because my family has a history of insulin or diabetes type 2 and insulin resistance. So I thought, right, it's a time to do this. And actually, a completely fantastic side effect of that was I lost 22 kilos.
I'm sure.
And it really was just by cutting the carbs out.
Yes.
Nothing else. Not going on a diet. But by taking the daily breads out, by taking out the pasta, the sugars, and whatever, the weight just sort of dropped off. It was incredible.
Absolutely. The carbs we should eat are only from the fruit that's ripe, exactly where you are at that time of the year. So what's in season where you are. that will make sense.
Yeah,
But you
and
know,
we eat a lot of vegetables, and people don't realize sometimes there are carbs in vegetables, but
of
again,
course,
they're natural.
it's not only that they're natural. In vegetables, the amount of carbs is so limited. I mean, they are so diluted in water
Yes,
that they don't really count as carbs. They are obviously carbs. That's what they are.
yes,
But their load on the system is so gentle that it does not spike the insulin.
yeah,
Vegetables will leave the insulin in absolute peace.
right,
There are carbs in pulses, for example, in legumes,
yes,
and that's okay. They're not those big aggressive carbs. There's a lot of protein in there as well. Don't eat mountains of it, but this is good.
yeah,
And berries are great because they are low in sugars. Even natural sugars can be too much.
yes,
People who just drink huge amounts of fruit juice and think that's healthy.
right,
It's
yeah,
not.
yeah,
It's not, for a simple reason that it's too much concentrated sugar. That
right,
amount of sugar should come with all the amount of fiber that is in the fruit it came from.
yeah,
So if you have that sugar combined with the fruit, you're good. But if you take it out,
right, yes.
it's too much. This
Well,
is too much.
I had my blueberries and strawberries on my yogurt with some oats, some steel cut oats this morning, and actually it's quite a filling breakfast. A bit of kefir, some natural yogurt, some oats, and blueberries and strawberries, and some flax seeds on the top. Wonderful.
Flaxseed is perfect.
Yeah.
See if you want to swap your yogurt. Is it dairy yogurt? Is it cow's milk?
It is, well, it's, I usually have Greek yogurt, so I guess it will be cow's milk, yeah. But
Yeah,
we also have goat kefir sometimes.
yeah. See if you like it. I do. I'm happy. I really like it. If you can go to plant-based yogurts, they taste
Yeah.
fabulous. Some taste really, really good. And dairy is another thing that creates a lot of inflammation in the body.
But does it not depend on how much you're having?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I have
If you
this
just, yeah.
maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and other than that, we don't really eat a lot of dairy.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great. That's
Okay,
great.
I wanted to ask you about this because our time is kind of moving on here, Simona. You said, you got a healthy lifestyle, a healthy diet, and you were shocked by some tests that you did.
Yes, about the inflammation.
Yes.
So, I took this test that I work with. I started working with it after I came across it, tried it on myself,
Right.
stayed with it for some time, and saw what came out. And then I decided to work with this with these people because it's absolutely amazing. So I took this test to see how much inflammation, very silent because I felt very, very good. So I thought there's no inflammation in my body. Took the test, and I was in absolute shock. And that's when I asked myself, if I get these results with the way I eat, the way I cook, what results is everyone gonna get? Who's not
Right.
that aware and doesn't really give it that much attention.
Sure.
And now I know the answer because now I've been doing this with many people, and the answers are scary.
Right.
And this is for people with a normal lifestyle, and they're really, really bad enough, even for people like me, and there are people in sports also that have bad results because they demand so much from their bodies for their
Right.
sports. And since the food we eat is not able to provide anymore what we need,
Right.
it's a real struggle. It's a
Yes.
real struggle. I always said that if you eat well, you'll be healthy. 2 years ago, I had to really rethink and say, I'm afraid it's not possible. You have to supplement.
Right.
You can't find it. It's not there anymore in the food.
Yes, yeah. Listen, Simona, if people are interested in what you're talking about here, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Probably I'm everywhere around in many places. It's a bit confusing.
Sort of like God, yes,
The-
omnipresent.
no, I'm just like a little bee or something. But the best way to find me, since I have a funny name, and there's only another lady I know who's called exactly like me. So it's Simona, like Simon with an A, and then mango, like the fruit. If you go to simonamango.com, that's
Right,
my website. And on the first page, it just says you can mail me here.
right, okay.
Then you can browse, you can do what you want. But if you want to talk to me, go to my front page and mail me, and we can be in touch like that. That's the easiest way.
Simona, our time it's gone in very, very quickly. It
It
always
has.
does.
What are we done already?
You were just about done. We got about 30 seconds to do
We just
to the
started.
break. I know. Can I just say thank you so much to you for joining me today? It's been really interesting talking to you, and I think what you've been tackling, it doesn't matter where people live. I think these are issues that we really need to think about.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bill. That was great. Thank you so much.
Have a great weekend, everyone, when it comes, and I'll be back next week. Take care, everyone.